Tackle today, Matt and Mark Justice, bringing you all the charts, the news, the analysis, so you can be informed in just a few minutes on all your trading decisions. Labor market data came out today, and it continued the trend this week of very strong economic data all week long. Beat of expectations. We have precious metals, particularly silver, showing real relative strength, which is historically unusual on a day like this. We're going to break it all down. Matt, where do you want to start?
Oh, I'll start as we always start here in the indexes, as we did have some labor market news come out into the market, and we'll break that down in just 1 second. But let's take a look at the indexes. And whenever you do have a moment where you have a major economic report, it's really not good enough just to look at the SPY. You want to look at the futures contract to see how the market responded to the actual report when it did come out. And obviously it goes without saying that we were expecting a little bit of volatility here today, and we obviously got a little bit of volatility here today. On the actual news, you saw this, and that's right here on this big green candle. On the actual news of the labor market, you actually saw a pretty sizable run up in the market right in front of that cash open. But the cash open came out, and you had a little bit of negativity given back, all of that and then some. So it's been a wild ride. But again, this is not to be unexpected. It's an algorithm move, and then you start to see what happens next. And what happens next when you start to see that algorithm move settle down a little bit, the buyers step in. And so obviously we haven't seen anything in terms of a technical breakout that would change what we are looking at in the overall market. You're still looking at a shallow pullback coming into a previous breakout channel. You really haven't seen any degree of momentum really pick up from a technical perspective. And the algorithm move was legitimate, but it did come right back down when it hit that overall resistance level. When you do look at it from an SPY perspective, the actual ETF, you'll see the gap up into a little bit of resistance, wasn't ready for prime time. Now it's just kind of settling in, but overall, pretty decent price action. Now you're hovering right underneath a breakout channel in the SPY. Still, I wouldn't say any substantial changes from a pure technical perspective. A little bit better conclusion so far to the week than we had to start the week. But at the end of the day, we're kind of right at the same price point, kissing up against that secondary resistance level as we end this week.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing strength in a lot of areas. The market, RSP, the Qs, small caps, the rally, no discernible difference, right? Qs leading a little bit, but pretty broad-based rally, isn't it?
Yeah, so far it's a fairly broad-based rally. I mean, we're not even talking 1% yet, but it is a fairly broad-based rally. You're seeing it across the board. I do like the Qs a little bit more than some of the other indexes, as the SPY RSP combo is kind of kissing up over some overhead resistance. IWM fighting for that last bastion of support yesterday, and I said in the Traders Lounge yesterday, you got to hold this level and get right back up above those moving averages. And that's what you are seeing here. Probably the labor market data was probably a little bit better for those small and the mid cap areas of the market. When you're talking about very economically sensitive areas, obviously they do look a little bit better than some of the other indexes itself. But in the Tackle Trading newsletter, which we'll put out later on today, we will have a complete technical update, trends, patterns, support, and resistance, which indexes are leading. We'll do it both from a sector perspective as well as an index perspective later on in the Tackle Trade newsletter.
Yeah, listen, that labor market data came out, Matt, and it continued to trend. Like every day this week, the major economic report of that day came in not just above expectations, smashed expectations. We've seen that all week long. ISM services yesterday. So that trend, it shouldn't be a surprise when you come in strong, which is exactly what we did. Uh, Employment numbers, the number of jobs added, almost 100,000 above expectations. The unemployment rate dropped. Average hourly earnings, little inflationary signal, probably will not cause tremendous worries. One of those data points that you'll keep an eye on to see if that trend. But overall, Matt, soft landing, strong economy, resilient economy, whatever phrase you want to use.
However you want to
Yeah,
describe,
there is
right?
a clear narrative emerging from the data this week.
Yeah, and we caught this early this week. Obviously with the JOLTS report coming in as a positive, ADP non-farm came in as a positive. You have ISM services coming in as a positive. You have initial claims coming in line, and then today's labor market data just was very impressive on every single scenario. When you're just talking about the economy, right? If you're just talking about monetary policy, the economic analysis, you cannot look at average hourly earnings going at 0.4% when the PCE report year over year was 2.2% and say that's a bad number. That's a very good number for consumer spending, for example. Non-farm employment came in at 254. Expectation was 147. And that goes along the line with some of those very sizable beats we saw earlier this week. Mark, here's another extremely sizable beat, one of the better beats we've had on record this year, and probably just what the doctor had ordered, as you were obviously having some concern. And just let's all, thoughts and prayers about the economist out there on Twitter that was bringing up the Psalm roll a couple months ago, because they are obviously not talking about that one any longer. But at the end of the day, Mark, this is a very good report coming in from an economic perspective. It obviously leads to soft economic analysis or soft landing economic analysis, but it also does a couple things, because we know there will be revisions to this report. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I know. That's
You got
good.
plenty to play with and you got plenty to give up, but there will be a revision to this report.
Yeah,
That's number
no.
one. Number two, how does this impact the central bank's thinking on monetary policy? And was it too good of a number? Because the Fed was pretty outlandishly dovish from a couple weeks ago. This economic data this week does not support Fed being outlandishly dovish.
No, they don't. In fact, Matt, I was following my Fed speakers this morning. Williams didn't have any remarks in his speech. Goolsbee, who's the biggest dove, that guy
Yeah.
would cut in all situations, like, hey, it's all awesome. We're going to cut lots.
Cut. Yep.
Yeah, but he's the most dovish. Everybody knows that. We haven't had any legitimate people talk about it. And so we'll see what that Fed speak is next week.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't change the fact that the when you do go into a rate cutting conversation, and that's what we are firmly entrenched in, is a rate cutting conversation or environment, I should say. Economic data becomes very important, and this economic data, ever since we have went into a rate cutting conversation a couple weeks ago, has been pretty good and certainly leads to soft economic landing type analysis. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But very good economic week this week, no doubt about that. We'll have a very big update in the Tackle Trading newsletter later on today. Mark, it was all about the labor market news here today. We do have a couple stocks in the news, but nothing that's going to turn the heads. You got Rivian reporting earnings. Spirit Airlines is facing bankruptcy, and CVS is going through a restructure. We've talked about that in stocks in the news before. Rivian came out and reported a loss of $1.25. That was an actual a miss, as they were expecting a loss, but they also cut annual production guidance by up to 47,000 vehicles, down from the 57,000. And they cited supply shortages in that as well. So a little bit of a negative report coming out of Rivian. On the Spirit Airlines, that stock has just been facing difficulties for a very long time. The government, I can't remember when it was. It was a few months ago when the government came out and killed that deal, that merger deal between Spirit and JetBlue. But now Spirit is facing some bankruptcy, and they're just getting absolutely slaughtered here today. CVS up a little bit, as they do announce that they are going down the road of strategic reviewing of what they're going to do with their segments of their company, and they're considering breaking up the insurance divisions with some of their pharmacy divisions, their retail pharmacy. And so CVS going through a little bit of that as well. But like I said, it was more of a macro day today, and it's certainly been a macro week, no doubt about that. What about the commodity side of the equation, Chucky?
Listen, the story this morning, this is one of the major stories for me in all of the stories, is that you have hot economic report. I have seen silver and gold put in over the years, many a big red candle on that. Dollar going up, hot economic. I mean, we see silver, we see precious metals. So that is not what's happening at this morning. You're showing incredible resiliency. Silver is, downright parabolic the last 15 minutes in
I know
price
you want to
action.
talk about silver, but I ain't moving from the dollar chart.
All right. So strong economic, the chart shows it, right?
Yeah,
It's been that kind of week.
listen, I know you want to get into the commodities side because those are where the sexy charts are here. But again, it's very important to understand this conversation on the dollar. If you are going to be playing in the commodities side, the dollar is going downright parabolic. You want to talk about silver going parabolic? The dollar is going parabolic here. We're talking V-shaped recovery at this point. You've broken back up above the 50-period moving average. And when you're looking at the dollar move, once again, combination move, real strong economic data this week. Dollars really kind of pumping on that. You get a secondary bid based on the geopolitical situation this week. And that has been a little bit more than I expected it to do in terms of the V-shaped recovery here. Not surprised by the beats on the economic data, not surprised by the safe haven bid on the dollar, but I am surprised a little bit with how just downright parabolic the dollar has been this week. Up, big candle every single day from Monday through Friday, broke back up above that 50-period moving average, and it didn't put pressure on the commodities side.
This has been a big story for you this week.
Very surprised by that. But the bigger this goes and it doesn't put pressure on the commodity side, I'm going to love a pivot formation. And so you look at that dollar and you're like, wow, you hold firm against that support level that was baked into the pie. But what was not was the parabolic move. And so I'm a little bit surprised with how healthy silver has been here today. Not just today, but this week, bucking some of that trend. But silver is an industrial metal. Copper is an industrial metal. They get a bid on the economic side of the equation. And so, yeah, you are talking about a potential breakout here on silver. It looks absolutely fantastic on a technical perspective. You look at SLV, that's the thing we've been tracking. It broke that 29.5, and now you're right back up at that 30 level. I've been talking about silver for about 2 weeks, talking about how this is going to be playing out, and I'm very impressed by the overall development of silver with that potential breakout. We'll see what happens by the end of the day, but I do think you're going to have an upgrade coming into the tackle trading newsletter on the commodity side of the equation later on today. That looks like a very clean breakout. On the copper side of the equation, just a little bit of hesitation analysis, quite frankly, slowing that down. And honestly, it could take a few more days of slowing that down, but copper's not too I'm not too privy of a conversation on copper today when silver is doing what it is doing. And again, impressed by gold. Impressed by gold with just holding up against that dollar. You're talking about short-term consolidation, high base, and a very clean resistance level at 2,700. Once again, gold's probably waiting on the dollar. Honestly, that's probably because their relationship is very sensitive to one another in terms of the divergent behavior they have. Silver does not have that. Copper does not have that as much. And so silver, I'm quite frankly extremely impressed by gold holding up. I'm not too surprised by silver's development. That's exactly what we talked about for the past couple weeks in terms of the overall development. And so a little surprised that it's so bullish today with the dollar, but I'm not surprised by the overall development on silver. I am surprised with gold holding up as well as it has. That breakout of 2,700 looks like the new potential trigger in gold.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to discuss. We're going to get hard at work putting out our tackle trading newsletter. It is a fantastic read. It is a worthy in these big macro moments. Signing up for that trial. Go to tackletrading.com, go to that, get that 15-day free trial, read the newsletter, get our scouting reports, join this community. Worth your time and effort.